Hey everyone, Simon here from Top Tennis Training, and in this video I want to help you hit the perfect tennis serve in 5 simple steps. So step number 1 is using the ideal grip to serve with. Now this is the continental grip, sometimes known as the chopper grip. It's also known as the hammer grip, and the reason we use this grip is because it allows 2 things to happen. It allows us to hit all the different serves, the slice serve, the kick serve and the flat serve, and the variations and combinations between all 3 with one grip, but it also allows us to use pronation and supination, which is something that happens above just around the time of contact. Now it's very important that we have this grip, because if we don't have that grip we won't be able to use that supination and that pronation on serve, and we won't be able to hit all the different spins and all the different types of serves with that one grip. Easiest way to find that grip is to put your racket out like this and imagine you're going to shake somebody's hand. You're reaching in that position and then you grip the racket. So as you can see from this angle, that is the continental grip, and from the bottom that's the continental grip. Now from this position on the grip you will have variations. So for a second serve you might go slightly further around so you can hit more spin, especially on that kick serve, and this is something that the pros do. First serve they go the normal traditional continental, and the second serve they might have a slight variation where they twist the hand slightly further around this way, which allows them to hit more spin. So now that we have the correct grip, step number 2 is now the ball toss. Now the ball toss is one of the biggest issues that players around the entire world are facing on their serve. So the first thing we have to understand on that ball toss is that it's not a throw. I'm not throwing the ball in the air, I'm placing the ball in the air. Now once you have that mindset that you're not throwing it, you're placing it, that makes a world of difference straight away. So that first step is that I'm placing the ball. So I'm not throwing the ball, because when I'm throwing the ball I tend to go quick with my hand, but when I think about placing the ball I tend to go slower and almost just place it on the spot. Now the ideal height for the ball toss would be about 6 inches or no more than 6 inches higher than your contact point. So if I'm going to make contact here, I don't need to throw the ball up there and let the ball travel down, because the higher I throw the ball the quicker it's traveling when I'm trying to make contact. If I throw it really high, let's say 2 or 3 times higher than I need it to be, by the time it's coming down it's actually traveling with quite a lot of speed, so it's hard to hit that ball and to time it perfectly time and time again. The other issue is when you have a high ball toss, it's going to move around a lot, so it's going to go sometimes to the right, sometimes to the left, sometimes behind me. It's hard to get a consistent ball toss the higher you throw the ball. If you can place the ball just around 6 inches higher than the contact point, then that's going to be ideal. The lower, even if you can do it 3 inches, that's even better. The easiest way to place the ball is by holding the ball in my fingers like this. Not in the fingertips, but in my fingers. So my fingers are now gripping the ball. A common issue is players holding it in the palm, and then as they release, the ball is rolling off the fingers. You want to hold it in the fingers, not in the fingertips, but in the fingers, and you almost want to feel that you're placing that ball and you're just releasing with the fingers. That's a very easy way to instantly improve your ball toss. Holding the ball in the fingers and not in the palm. And as I come down with the tossing arm, this left hand, I'm not going too quick. I'm going slowly down and slowly up, because I'm placing the ball. I'm not throwing it, I'm placing it. That's a very easy way to instantly improve your ball toss. Step number 3 is now reaching a good trophy position. Now a good trophy position is where you'll see the players have a slight pause. Some players have a slight pause, some players go through that motion very quickly, but they all reach a position which is very similar. Now the common things that you want to be looking for, the common fundamentals of a good trophy pose would be your tossing arm has stayed up, so your tossing arm is pointing up to the ball. This is to help keep the upper body balanced, but also to allow this shoulder over shoulder to happen. So when I toss the ball, me being a right-hander, the left hand goes up and my right shoulder starts to drop. So my right shoulder starts to go down when my left shoulder starts to come up. So in the trophy pose, my right shoulder is going to be lower than my left shoulder, and later on in the serve, it's going to have that cartwheel shoulder over shoulder. But to begin with, to start in that trophy pose, I'm reaching a position where the right shoulder is down and the left shoulder is up. So I've got my left arm pointing up to the ball, my left shoulder higher than the right shoulder, my right shoulder is dropped and relaxed, and I've got the racket in about a 90-degree angle in this hitting arm. So in this position from here, if I drop the right shoulder and lift the left shoulder, it's going to look something like this. So the tip of the racket would be pointing up to the sky, and you also have a very relaxed arm, just like I was going to throw a ball. So if I was going to throw a tennis ball, I'd reach a position similar to this. Where I'm going to go from that position. I wouldn't go from here and I wouldn't go from here. So I wouldn't go too far away from my body, I wouldn't come too close to my body with the ball. I'm going to have a little bit of a gap, but it's going to be relaxed, and then from here I'm throwing that ball. This is the exact same thing that we want to do on the serve. We want to reach a position where we're feeling that from here I'm now throwing the racket up into the ball, up into that contact point. So the easiest way to find that trophy pose, and easiest way to find an ideal one, would be if you start off with both hands like this, you bend this hitting arm to about a 90-degree angle, and from here I now just drop my shoulder. So I've got that tilt, I've got the shoulder over shoulder, and I've also got a perfect throwing position in my hitting arm, which is my right hand. Now from here, I also want to use my legs if I can. So some players, they email us and they say, I'm an older player and I don't have the power to use my legs. That's okay, but if you can use your legs, then you definitely want to, because that's where the energy starts. The force from the legs is what drives off the ground. So the explosive leg drive, that goes through the legs, into the trunk, up through the core, all the way up into the shoulders, and then finally into the arm and then into the racket. But it all starts from the ground up. If we can use the leg drive, 100% you want to get into a good knee bend, whichever stance you use. Some players out there might be using the platform, where you're in that position here. Some players might be using the pinpoint, where you're in that position. Either way, you want to feel that you're in a good knee bend if you can, and you want to feel that your arm is in that throwing position, almost like the Nike tick that you see on the Nike clothing. So that position right here. Now something very important to note is that when I reach that trophy position, we aren't stopping, we aren't having a big pause. You might have a brief pause, you might have a very slight pause when you get to that position, but you're not holding this position for too long. And the reason behind this is, firstly, when we start the service motion, we start, however we get into that trophy position, we have that swing path. Now I'm building momentum, I'm creating momentum to get the racket up into that position. If I have a pause, it's almost like the whole motion is reset. It's starting from scratch, because I'm getting into that trophy position and I'm stopping. So it's almost like this part, there's no reason to have that part. I might as well serve right from that position. The other thing is, the longer I stay in that knee bend, the more power I'm losing from the legs, the more explosive power I'm losing from holding that position. Now if I were to jump, and I were to jump as high as I could, I wouldn't go into the knee bend and stop. I'd go down and I'd come straight up. And that's the exact same thing we want to feel we're doing on our serve. We're not having that big pause, we're not going down and pausing, we're going down, up, straight away. So down and up. The more explosive we can make that, the better for our serve. So once again, we're reaching the trophy position, but it's just for that brief second. Some players like Stan Wawrinka, they might reach that position, have a slight pause, and then drive out. But he isn't holding that position for 2 or 3 seconds. He's holding it for split seconds. He's just barely passing through that position, but he is reaching that position. That's the key. You want to reach that position. A lot of coaches, they'll say, don't get into a trophy pose. Now, by not reaching the trophy pose, what else are you going to do? You're going to go through the motion and the racket might never reach an ideal throwing position. This is the ideal throwing position for me. Once I get into that position, I don't want to stop there. I want to go through that motion, but I want to reach that position. I don't want to be doing this on my serve and then having a pause where I drop the racket behind my back or so on. So I'm reaching that trophy position, but I'm not staying there for too long. And step number 4 is using pronation on your serve. So prior to contact, we've reached that trophy position. Now from here, because of my leg drive, if I have a leg drive, the legs will drive up. As I've already said in the video, the energy then goes through the trunk into the shoulder. Now the racket starts to drop, and then from here I now have this almost like this part of the racket, the edge of the racket is leading forward onto the oncoming ball. So in that position, that is where my wrist is slightly in a supinated position. So this is supination on serve. So what exactly is pronation and supination? Pronation is where my palm is facing downwards like this. Now if I turn my forearm the opposite way to facing up to the sky, now my forearm is in a fully supinated position. So if I grab the racket now, this is fully supinated position. My racket and my arm cannot turn any further than this. So this is prior to contact. Now some players never reach that full supinated position, but they'll reach a slight supinated position. So from here, now my hand is up to the sky, supination. I'm pronating now, but I haven't fully pronated, but I am pronating. So I'm pronating, now I've reached the kind of medium zone, and now I fully pronate, where the palm is fully facing to the ground. So on the serve, it's going to be like supination. I'm pronating now, but I haven't fully pronated at contact. And after contact, I fully pronate. So once again, supination, pronating, and then fully pronated. And the issue is, a lot of players never reach that full pronation mode. They reach a position like this, and then they come down with the racket flapped, like so. If you want the full range of motion and to be able to hit all the different spins, you want to go from here to here, and the only way to do this is by having that continental grip. If I were to do that with a forehand grip, for instance, let's say I'm using a semi-western forehand grip to serve. If I do that same motion, the racket's going to be like this, and if I hit a serve, it's going to go off to the right side of the court. So I need that continental grip to be able to go supination, pronating, fully pronated. So that's exactly why we use a continental grip, and this is in fact what allows us to hit the different spins with that same grip, because prior to contact, all we're doing is slightly changing the racket angle to hit the different spins and the different serves. And step number 5 is having a good relaxed follow through and finish. So a lot of players that I see, even some players that I coach, when I have my first lesson with them, I see that they serve and they have a very stiff finish, or they don't finish all the way. Now if you look at most of the top players, they all finish, for the right-handers, most of them finish around their left hip with the racket head. So they're going from contact point, pronating, and then they're coming down in that relaxed fashion. To their leg, to the left hip. Now what this does is it allows the body to relax the arm in the most natural way. If I were to throw a ball and I was to stop like this, that's a lot of stress on my shoulder and on my elbow. If I were to do that with a serve, it's the exact same thing. There's a lot of stress there. So after I hit the ball, I want to be able to hit, still accelerate through the contact point, but then relax in a nice way at the end of the serve. And by finishing near your left pocket, you're allowing that to happen. So I'm not forcing it, I'm not doing this, but I'm allowing it to happen in a relaxed way. This will save your shoulder, this will save you from getting injured hopefully, and this will help you to accelerate through the contact point and give you a better serve. So here's a brief recap. We have step number 1, using the continental grip, which will allow you to hit the different spins, the different serves without having to change the grip, but also allow you to use supination, and pronation later in the motion. Step number 2 is having a good ball toss no higher than 6 inches above your contact point. Step number 3 is reaching a good trophy position, not pausing there, but reaching that position almost like you're going to throw a ball, so reaching an ideal throwing position. Step number 4 is using supination and pronation during contact, which if you are using a continental grip should happen naturally, and if you are changing your grip from a forehand grip over to a continental, it's going to take some time, but eventually you'll start getting the feel of pronating during the contact point. And step number 5, having a good relaxed follow through that will allow you to slow down the racket in a natural way, but also allow you to accelerate during the contact point. So there you have it, guys, 5 steps to hitting a perfect tennis serve. There are many other things that we could add in this video, but to keep it simple, let's keep it at 5 steps. And if you want more help with your serve, we have an entire serve blueprint course with the world's fastest server, Sam Groff. And if you want to watch the free videos from that course, click the link under this video and you can see those videos for free. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment down below as well. Did you enjoy the video? Did you learn something new? And do you already use all of these 5 steps? Signing off, Simon from Top Tennis Training. All the best, guys.